kids. All right, we are into lesson 3 of math. Just like when we did the adding in the tens digits, we're gonna do a few different ways to add before we get to the stacking and regrouping. So far you have done number lines. This week you have done adding with using place value blocks. And today, I know we're moving a little bit quickly, but we have to, and these aren't really the ways that people add all the time, so I don't want to spend too much time on them anyways. I'd prefer to kind of get us to the stacking and regrouping. Anyways, today what we're going to do is partial sums, and if you recall, when we did this in the tens digit, we noticed that the word partial has the word part right in it. So we're going to take numbers and we're going to find one part of the sum, another part of the sum, and this time a third part of the sum, and add it together to get the great big sum. We did this with numbers in the tens digits. So for instance, we did numbers like 23 plus 46. And before we started just regrouping, we found the partial sums. So we would do 6 plus 3 is 9. And then if you recall, we would have to think for a minute that it's not 2 plus 4, it's 20 plus 40, and we would write 60. So we would have the ones, and we would have the tens, and then to get our big sum, we would have to add those together, right? So we would do 9 plus 0 is 9. Nothing plus 6 is 6. We're going to keep going with that. It's the same process. We're just going to add the third place value, which is the hundreds. Okay, so let's give this a try. We will try 248 plus 325. All right, so partial sums, you go part by part by part. We will have 3 parts, the ones, the tens, and the hundreds before we put them all together. So let's take a look at the ones. We have 8 plus 5, and that is 13. For partial sums, you do write the whole thing going across. We're not going to regroup that 1 into the tens yet. Then we move into the tens. It's not 4 plus 2. What we have to think today is 40 plus 20, and that would be 60. Then we move into the hundreds. We're not thinking 2 plus 3. We're thinking 200 plus 300 is 500. I'm not a terribly neat person, but notice how pretty neat my columns are. If I start to write them at a slant, it's going to be tricky to make sure I add it correctly to get my big sum. So I'm going to try to keep them nice and straight. You could even draw lines if you wanted to. I'm going to add it up for the big sum. It's 3 plus 0 is 3, and 1 plus 6 is 7, and nothing plus 5 is 5. So the big sum is 573. These are all of my partial sums. Okay? Let's do another one. Okay, so we'll do 346 and 128. Let's add the ones first. 6 plus 8 is 14. And then we will add the tens. 40 plus 20 is 60. And then we'll add the hundreds. 300 plus 100 is 400. Then we can find our final big sum. These are the partial sums, the sums of the ones, the sums of the tens, the sums of the hundreds, the partial sums, the 3 parts. And now we put them together for the big sum. Again, look how nice and neat those columns are stacked. 4 plus 0 is 4. 1 plus 6 plus 0 is 7. And then nothing plus 4 is 400. So the answer to 346 plus 128, the final answer, is 474. So now you're going to go into your math book, and don't forget that Miss Fortunato and the other math coach, in an effort to be helpful, did a voiceover of the directions to you. And so when you go into the math text in Seesaw, you'll hear their voice. What you need to do is just listen to it, and then when it's done, you tap re-record. And that will open up the tools for you to work in your math pages, to all 3 of them, as opposed to just that middle one. Okay? Hopefully that'll be different for next week. Okay. All right, have a great day. Bye.